average cost of capital. So it's still weighted average cost of what? Capital. Is the average cost of all the sources of what? Capital. Right? What are the steps we need to know? Now, number one is to identify. You should identify the sources of it will be there. So, what are the sources of finance? Equity, which is the ordinary shares, which are then the debt. Under the debt, you check for your preference shares, you check for your convertible convertible bond, you check for debenture, you check your debt, right? Once you identify the sources of finance, right, the next step you should do is to calculate.
Please take note of the
costs of capital. You know, by now you should know that when I said calculate cost of capital, it means the equity and what? And debt, right? Cost of what? Capital. Equity, you calculate the cost of capital, or the cost of, yes, you calculate the cost of capital for the equity and what? And debt, right? That is the cost of equity and what? And the cost of debt. Now, the next is to determine the calculate the total market value of 2. Now, when I say you should calculate the total market value of 2, it means that you have to calculate the total market value of equity and debt, right? Is to calculate the total market value of equity and what? And debt. You will see it how we are going to calculate it in my next video, because it is going to be a past question, right? Past question, ACCA, and Ican past question also, right? Now, the next thing is to calculate WACC, that is weighted average cost of capital. So now the question is, how will you determine your WACC? You've identified the sources of finance. You've calculated the cost of equity and the cost of debt. You've calculated the total market value. Now is the what? The weighted average what? Cost of what? Capital. Now, what do we have? We have items, right? So after the items, you have the items, total, or you say market value. Take
note of these steps.
Put this as
please,
total market value or market value. It's fine. Then what next?
Thank you.
You have the costs of capital. When I said cost of capital, I believe we would have understand this, which is the equity and what? And debt. So here we have ash total. Let me reduce the ash total. Okay, ash total. So now the first thing is the item, right? Which is the equity part. So you can put equity or ordinary shares. You know, when I mention equity, cost of equity, it could be the dividend valuation or the capital asset pricing model, right? So let's say equity or ordinary shares. So equity, then the market value, right? So the cost, the total market value of that equity, right? And the cost of equity, right? So the cost of equity, right? So the cost of the market value times the cost of capital, we give ash total, right? It will give ash what? Ash total. Market value times cost of capital, we give ash what? Ash total. Ash total, right? Now, what next? Which is what? The debt. Let me just list them. The convertible, the total market value, the costs of capital, you multiply, you have this, can have debenture.
So these are the
Can have
so these
this.
are the
You multiply.
methods, these are
You
the
have your
ways
hash
you can use
total,
to calculate your weighted
right?
average cost of
Debenture.
capital. You can see it
Excuse me.
on
You
the
can
screen,
have
right?
redeemable, right? You have cost of capital, hash total. You multiply, right? You can have irredeemable, right? Right? You can have irredeemable. Then the last one is bank loan, right? Bank loan, for the purpose of this class, bank loan. Bank loan, it is non-traded debt. We can determine the market value of bank loan. Now, any figure given in the question in the financial statement as the bank loan, we assume to be the market value. I repeat, we can determine the market value of bank loan because it is not a traded what? Debt. It is non-traded debt. You can go back to my previous video, right? Now, we can determine the market value. Now, the figure, the total bank loan given in the financial statement, we assume to be the market what? The market value. Please take note. Now, how do we determine
Please
the market
take note
value?
of that.
The
It's
cost
very
of
important.
capital, which is the cost of debt for the bank loan. I will explain that immediately after this. So this is cost of what? Cost of debt for the bank loan. Now, you multiply, you have your hash total. Therefore, weighted average cost of capital, WACC, is equals to your hash total divided by the total market value. You have to sum the total market value. You have to sum the total market value. You have total market value. This is the total market value, please. Right? We have total market value. Total market value. So this is this, okay? Now, hash total divided by
So this is the formula to determine weighted average cost of capital,
the
right?
total market value, right? Times 100. We give weighted average cost of what? Capital. Now, how to determine cost of bank loan? Let me quickly examine this. Cost of bank loan. Now, cost of bank loan will be equals to the interest you will pay, then the tax relief, 1 minus tax rates to the company, right? So this will give us the cost of bank loan, which we are going to put here as a cost.
All right. So we now know how to determine the weighted average cost of capital, right? You can see that when you want to determine your weighted average cost of capital, it will be your hash total divided by the total market value. You can go back to the video and watch how to determine the weighted average cost of capital. Don't forget that when you want to calculate weighted average cost of capital, there are steps to it, of which have actually showed that in this class, right? Of course, when we want to determine that, we will still talk more about it, right? Now, this is question one, right? Adopted from Ican as well as ACCA past question, right? Now, when you see a question like this under the cost of capital, you just see a question, even if it is not under the cost of capital, the first thing you need to do is to go and check the requirement. What did they say you should do? Required, right? You need to check. So you need to check the requirement, right? So that is what we need to do first. So we quickly go So where we have the requirement, right? Even before reading the question. Now, please confirm if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your
Please
screen.
confirm if you can see my screen. Okay.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Now, the requirement says that required calculate the market value. Calculate what? Calculate the market value weighted average cost of capital of Eco PLC. The market value. Of course, all what you want to do is the market value. Of course, when you are calculating your cost, you will consider the market value of the cost of capital, whether equity or debt. Now, the B part of this question says that discuss how the capital asset pricing model can be used to calculate a project-specific cost of capital for Eco PLC, referring in your discussion to the key concept of systematic risks, business risk, and what financial risk. This B part, I can explain, I may not explain the process, right? Discuss how capital asset pricing model can be used. I may not explain it because the project specific cost of capital is another topic on its own. When we are done with cost of capital, right? When we are done with this part of cost of capital, we move to another part of cost of capital, right? Now, discuss how the project specific cost of capital is used when a company wants to diversify. We'll get there, right? I will not touch that part. Now, referring in your discussion, I may explain the systematic risk, business risk, as well as what? Financial risk, right? And these are the little marks, maybe 5 marks or 2 marks, even 2 marks, 3 marks is okay, right? Now, the next one is C, which I believe that everybody, almost everybody, anyone that is on this call, even you are not on this call, this class, you will understand this C part. Discuss why cost of equity is greater than the what? Is greater than the what? The cost of what is greater than the cost of debt. Is that not so? We all know this, right? Of course, I will ask that question. So these are the things you need to check when you want to solve. You don't just rush and say, oh, this is cost of capital, you started. No, it's not like that, right? It's not like that. You need to read the requirements. Okay, what did they say you should do? Which topic? Oh, it is cost of capital. Then you now ask yourself, what are the steps you need to know in calculating what? Market value weighted average cost of capital. Don't forget that in the video that I just played, now the first step when you want to determine the weighted average cost of capital is to identify the sources of finance, right? Identify the sources of finance. 2, calculate the cost of capital. When you want to calculate, when I say cost of capital, it could be equity and debt. You say equity and debt, that is the cost of capital. 3, calculate the total market value of the cost of capital, which is the equity and debt, right? 4, determine the what? Weighted average what? Cost of what? Capital, of which we will still illustrate that in this question. And these are the 4 steps you need to know when you want to determine the weighted average what? Whether they call it post-tax market value weighted. Don't allow them to use English to do what? To deceive you, right? To deceive you, right? So whether they say post-tax weighted average cost of capital or they say market value weighted average cost of capital, anyone, right? Weighted average cost of capital is weighted average what? Cost of capital, because all this market value, you will consider it when you are solving your question. Class, are we still together? Now, let's now go to the question now. Class, are we still together? I need someone to read the question. I need a volunteer who can assist us with this question. Okay, we have here Eco PLC wishes to calculate its current cost of capital. Its current cost of capital. Okay, its current cost of capital, right? For use as a discount rate in investment. The following financial information relates to Eco PLC. You can see the following financial information. You can see your equity. You can see reserve. You can see the preference shares, bond, and what? And the long-term loan. Right? Now, after that, we're given that the ordinary shares. Now, from this is their financial statement, right? This is their financial statement. Who can identify the sources of finance here? Let's say we want to start now. Who can identify from this capital structure? Who can tell me the sources of finance? Unmute your mic, please. Hello?
Equity and debt.
Where are the equity? You have to list them. Let me know the equity. Let me know the debt.
Ordinary
We have
shares.
ordinary
Debt.
shares, preference shares, and redeemable bonds.
Okay, is that all?
Okay, we still have bank loan.
Is that all? Okay,
Yes,
that's
we have
fine.
also.
That's fine. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Now, what are the sources of finance here? Your ordinary shares, right, is a sources of finance, which is equity, right? Your debt are your preference shares are the sources of finance. Your bond redeemable after 6 years are debt instruments, right, which is debt. The long-term bank loan is a sources of finance. You can see how many sources of finance do we have? 4 sources of finance. The ordinary shares, the equity holder, and the debt as well. That the debt, the preference shares, bond redeemable, and the what? That is how to identify the sources of finance. Your reserve, it is not a sources of finance because your reserve is for a specific purpose. It may not be for investment. It may be for, it is not part of your what you are not sourcing for your reserve. You want to use it for something else, right? So that is why you can't classify reserve as part of your what? As part of your sources of finance, right? Because from your retained earning, that is where you remove your reserve. You say, oh, you want to remove 5% of this for reserve. Maybe you want to do a project for the future, right? And that is how it is, right? Or we say, even when you remove your retained earning, when you have your retained earning, you could classify the retained earning that, oh, we can use it as a reserve. We take it to one place, right? So when we want to use it, we can bring it forward, right? Now, if that is established from the financial statement, they usually call it capital structure. You know, when they say capital structure, they are talking about both the cost of the equity and what, as well as what, the debt, right? Now, if that is established, we've identified the sources of finance, right? So we move to the body of the question. Now, this is it. This is the body of the question. The ordinary share of Eco PLC has an SDIV market value. Class, what is SDIV? Class, what is SDIV? If something is SDIV, what does that mean? What is SDIV?
That means they receive the dividend.
Thank you. That is a very
That means
good
the
one.
dividend
Thank you,
are
Adela. Okay, noted. That is noted. Well done. So the market value SDIV, as they say, the ordinary shares has ordinary share of Eco PLC has an S dividend market value of 104 naira 70 kobo per share. What it means is that the dividend has been paid because it is SDIV, right? Given in the question. And ordinary dividend. Now the dividend is what? 36 naira, right? 3 kobo per what? Per share. Has been what? Has been paid. They even mentioned it that, oh, their dividend of 36 naira 36 naira 3 kobo per share has been what? Has been paid, right? Now, historic dividend payments. You can see historic dividend payments, which means that the dividend that they paid in the previous years, class, which means that the dividend that they pay in the what? In the previous year. Let me quickly look at the financials. Which date did they put in the financials? Oh, there is no date on the what? On the financial statements. I think that should be an error, though. Okay. Now let's move on. There should be a date. Now let's move on. It's not a problem. Now, if that is established, the historic dividend payment have been as follows, which means that the dividend has been paid in the previous what? In the previous years. 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. The financials should be for 2023. Why? Because you can see that after the SDIV market value, you were given a figure of dividend of 36 naira 3 kobo per shares. That is different from that you can't even find in this historic, right? Sometimes the current dividend may be among this historic. They might put after 2022, you have 2023. Is that also? And the financials given to you will be based on 2023. You already know that your current dividend will be the dividend for 2023. Class, are we still together? Now, these are historic what? Dividend. Now, we'll move further and say that the preference shares, don't forget, how many sources of finance do we identify? 4. We identify the ordinary shares. Is that also? Is that also? Then we identify the what? The debt. Now, the first part of it that we identify, which is ordinary shares. Now, let me ask this question. Under the cost of capital, there are 2 methods. The dividend valuation, there are 2 methods, equity and debt, right? Under equity, how many methods do we have under equity? Class, how many methods do we have under equity? Under the cost of equity, how many methods do we have? There are what?
Dividend valuation method and capping. Capital asset pricing model.
Dividend valuation method and CAPM, right? Now, looking at this dividend now. So, which of these methods will you now use? Is it dividend valuation method or CAPM to calculate cost of equity? Which one will you use?
Valuation.
Unmute your
Dividend
mic.
valuation method.
Thank you. Dividend valuation method. Thank you. Now, if it is dividend valuation method, under the dividend valuation method, there are 2 methods. Dividend with growth and dividend without growth. Which one of these 2 will you use? Is it dividend with growth or without growth? Unmute your mic.
Dividend with growth.
Thank you. Thank you. You can see, nobody will analyze question like this for you. It is your understanding that will give you more mark in SFM. It is not magic, right? I purposely not put the solution in that material so that I want to analyze the question for you so that you will understand, right? SFM is very simple. Now, look at it. The question says that determine the weighted average cost of capital. When you want to determine the weighted average cost of capital, there are 4 steps. You identify the sources of finance. We have identified the sources of finance already, right? Which is the equity and debt. Under equity, we say it is ordinary shares. Now, we now say under the ordinary shares, which of this method are we using? Because sometimes question will not tell you that you should use dividend valuation or CAPM. It's from the question given to you. You will be the one to now identify that, oh, it is dividend with growth. Oh, it is CAPM. Right? Now, in this question, now you can see that there is a growth in dividend. 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. Don't forget that the current dividend is given as 36 naira 3 kobo. You can see it there after the what? After the market value. SDIV market value of 104. Please note it, jot it down, please. It's very important. Right? Take note of that part. The SDIV market value is 104. The ordinary dividend of 36 naira 3 kobo that has just been paid currently. This is the current dividend. And they were given an historical what? Historical what? Historical dividend. Right? Historical what? Historical dividend. Now, we will move to the cost. You can see we'll move to another paragraph of the cost of debt, of the debt part. Now, the preference shares of Eco PLC are not redeemable and have an SDIV market value. SDIV market value. Don't forget, it means that the dividend has been what? Has been paid. Is that not so? Now, of 40 kobo per what? Per share. Right? That is the preference shares are not redeemable. So that is the cost of what? Of debt. Now, who can give me the reason why preference shares is classified as debt instruments? Who can try? Can give me the answer? Unmute your mic. Hello?
Yes,
Are we still
sir.
together?
From my own understanding, sir.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Preference
Go ahead.
shares are those who are paid first before any other shareholders are paid in the organization. In the event of liquidation,
Okay. Okay. So that is why. Okay. I'm with you. Okay, that's all. Okay, that's fine. Well done, Adiola. And that is it. Because you are giving them preference before the ordinary shareholder. So what you are doing is that you have to pay them before the ordinary shareholder. It is not more an equity instrument. It is a debt instrument, right? That is why you classify it as what? As debt. We classify it as what? As debt. Now, you can see the preference shares are not redeemable and have an SDIV market value of 40 kobo. You can see we've identified one debt, right? Under the long-term liability. Now, another one is the 7% bond are redeemable. Don't forget that in the financials, we're given preference shares, bond, as well as what? Long-term what? Bank loan. Now, let's go back to the bank bond. The 7% bond are redeemable at a 5% premium, right? 5% premium to their nominal value of 1,000 naira per bond. Class, the 7% bond is the interest rate, are redeemable at which is the redemption, at a 5% premium to their nominal value of what? 1,000. Class, don't forget that in our previous lecture, I've explained that redemption can be at par, which is 100 or 1,000, right? Your nominal value could be 100 or 1,000. Your redemption could be at premium or at discount. Class, you can see the nominal value of the bond as 1,000. When there is a premium, it means that the redemption will be above the nominal value. Now, I will give you an instance. What is nominal value? Nominal value is the value or is the face value of a bond, right? Is the face value of, just like a principal. When you pay your principal and your principal that you pay is the face value of the bond is 1,000. So when you have a premium will be above the 1,000. What it means is that you will end up having about 1,005. Is that not so? Because you have 5% premium. 5% premium means that your nominal value will be greater by 5%. right? They say 5% premium to their nominal value. Your premium means above the nominal value, above. If it is discount of 5%, you will reduce your nominal value by 5%. If it is premium, you will add 5% to it, to your 1,000 nominal value that you have, class. So, which means that your redemption could be at premium, could be at discount, could be at the normal 1,000 or 100. Class, do you understand that analysis? Hello? Hello? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, it seems it's only Adiola and Abidemi are in this class. Okay, Felicia. Okay, that's fine. So, if that is established, now the redeemable bond and have an S interest. Don't forget that it's an S interest. S interest means what? The interest has been paid. S interest of what? 104, right? 104, 104 naira, 50 what? 50 kobo. Is that not so? 50 kobo per what? Per bond, per one. Now, the bank loan, we are moving from that part to another debt instrument, which is the bank loan. The bank loan has a variable interest rate that has average 4% per year in recent years, which means that the interest cost of what? Of the bank loan is 4%. Don't forget that you can't determine the market value of a bank loan because bank loan is non-traded debt. You cannot trade it in the capital market, right? Right. Now, if that is established, we'll determine the cost, right? We'll get there. ECO pays profit after tax at annual rate of what? Or profit tax at annual rate of what? 30%, which means that the tax they pay, when you want to charge your tax relief on your debt, you use your what? 30%. Now, the required, we should calculate what? The market value, weighted average cost of capital, right? Okay, someone should list the steps for calculating weighted average cost of capital. Steps. What are the steps? Unmute your mic. What are the steps? Step 1.
Identify the source of pillars.
Hello? Okay, identify the sources of finance. We have established that.
Yes.
Is that not so? We have identified our sources of what? Finance. Step
Calculate
2.
cost of capital.
Calculate the cost of capital. Good. Thank you so much, Faith. Which is the cost of capital, your equity, and your debt. Is that not so? Next.
Calculate total
Step 3.
market value.
Good. Faith, I will send you something for your card, right? Just use it for your
Oh,
data,
thank you.
right? So just send me DM immediately after this class. Do you get? Well done. What is the last step?
Calculate WACC. Calculate
Last
WACC.
step. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you so much. Perfect. Thank you. And calculate what? WACC, which is what? The weighted average what? Cost of capital. And I've given the steps, right? I've established that before we started this class, right? Of course, I will still play the video again at the end where we want to determine the weighted average cost of what? Capital, right? Now, we've identified the sources of finance. Now, number 1 sources of finance that we identify is what? The ordinary shares, right? We've started, right? Ordinary shares, right? Now, under the ordinary shares, it is based on dividend with growth, right? It is based on the what? Dividend with what? Dividend valuation method with what, class? With
Growth.
growth. Now, when you want to determine the cost of equity, thank you. When you want to determine the cost of equity using the dividend valuation method, who can give me the formula? Cost of equity equals to, who can give me the formula? I'm waiting. Dividend with growth, right? Dividend with growth. Formula. Give me the formula. KE equals to what?
Equals to D1 into bracket 1 plus G.
Okay, good. D1, right? Open bracket 1
Plus
plus
G.
G, which is the growth rate. God bless you. Okay, plus G, separate. You put it
Yeah.
separate, right?
Market
Then
value
divided
XD.
by, thank you, market value SD. That's a very good one. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Divided by the market value SD. Good. This is good, right? Now, if that is established from this now, right? If that is established, now, our D1, don't forget, D1 means the current dividend, right? D1 means what? Current what? Current dividend, right? Is that not so? D1 means current dividend. Now, what is our, let's go, D1, which is the current dividend, current dividend, right? So what is the D1? D1 current, if you are with the question, current dividend. That is why I said it is advisable to have the question so that we can move faster. So what is the current dividend, class?
36.3 kobo, sir.
So what is the current dividend? Okay, thank you. 36.3 kobo. Thank you so much, Adiola, for that. Now, you can see that this is the historical dividend, class. This is what? Historical dividend. And here, the financial statement supposed to have 2023. They're supposed to say, they were supposed to put 2023. But because they want to confuse the student, they didn't put it as 2023. They now come to this part and tell you that an ordinary shares dividend of 36 naira 3 kobo per share are just been paid, which means that this is the current what? This is the current dividend, class. This is the what? The current what? The current what? The current dividend, right? This one here is the current what? Dividend, because they just paid that particular work. They just paid that particular dividend, class, right? So we move ahead to 36 naira 36.3 kobo, right? Right? 36 naira 3 kobo. Now, if this is established, don't forget that the growth rate will not be given to you. You need to determine the growth rate. Is that not so, class? Is that not so? In this question now, the growth rate is not given. You need to determine the what? The growth rate. Class, you need to determine the growth rate. But let's establish that the growth rate is not given, which is question mark, right? Then, the market value SDIV, right? Market value SDIV equals to, now what is the market value SDIV of the ordinary shares given to us in the question, class? What is the market value of ordinary shares given to us in the question, class? What is the market value of ordinary shares given to us in the question? You say
104.70 kobo.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You can see it here. You can see it here that the ordinary shares, every information that you need will be given to you. Every information. Look at it here. Can you see it? The ordinary shares. Can you see it? Can you see it? As what? 104. 104 naira 70 kobo. Right? You can see it there. Right? And that is how it is. Now, let's quickly move. That is what? 104. 104. 104. 104 what? Sorry. 104 naira, 7 kobo, right? 104 naira, 7 kobo, right? Please confirm. Is it 7 kobo?
70 kobo.
Hello?
70 kobo.
Okay, 70 kobo. Okay. Thank you. Okay, 70 kobo. Now, if that is established, now the only thing that we need to look for now is the growth rate, which is not given in the question, right? Is the growth rate, which is not given in the question. Now, we have already established that it is dividend with growth. Is that not so? It is what? Dividend with what? Growth. Now, how do we determine the growth rate, class? Which of these methods are we using? There are two methods of calculating growth rates, right? Which method are which method? Which your mind? Growth rate is calculated. Unmute your mic, please. As
Gordon and extrapolation method.
okay, good.
We have
Gordon
Gordon
and
and
extrapolation.
extrapolation
So
method.
with this question now, thank you, Ruth. Now with this question now, are you using Gordon or extrapolation?
Extrapolation.
In this question now, are you using Gordon?
Extrapolation.
You say, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Oluwaseyi. Thank you so much. You use extrapolation. Why? Because you are given a series of what? A series of dividend. Is that also? You are given a series of what? Dividend. Let me show you the series of dividend, right? You can see it here. You can see the series of dividend. You can see it, right? Now, you use what? Extrapolation. Now, if that is established, what is our formula for calculating extrapolation? Someone should give us the formula. I just want to copy the formula for calculating extrapolation. Okay, this is it, right? This is it here. So, and it's very simple, right? Cost of capital is what? Is very simple. It's just like, it's simple as ABC. Just understand the concept, right? Just understand the concept. You will get it. Now, let me quickly paste the formula so that we can move on to, okay. Now, you have this, we can have this. Now, we go back to the question. Let's go back to the question. Now, our N, what is the N? N is the numbers of years, right?
Yeah.
Is that not so? N is the what? N is the numbers of years. Now, class, how many numbers of years do we have? Yeah? How many, what is the
4
numbers of
years.
years? Someone should give me the numbers of years.
4 years.
You say how many years?
4 years.
4.
4 years.
4 years.
4 years. Okay. 4 years. Another person, 4 years.
I think
4
it's
years.
I think it's 5
You
years
see? Interesting.
with the current
It's
year.
5 years. You are given for
2019 to
2019. There is
2023.
a growth. Look at it. There is a growth. Thank you. There is a growth in 2019. 30.9. It increased to 32.2 in 2020. From 2020 to 2021, it gave you 33.6. There is a growth. From 2021 to 2022, there is a growth of 35 what? 35 naira per shares. Then the current one that they paid is in 2023, which is not stated. You can see this type of question will just confuse students. You just go and use 4 years, and that is what? Beginning of failure. It is what it is. Because you can't use 4 years because there is already a growth from 2021 to 2022, and also the current year dividend is given as 36 naira 3 kobo. It's 5 years, class. Right? Oh, this call will end in 10 minutes. Rachel, please, when it is exactly 5 minutes, let me know so that we can create another link. Thank you. Okay. Do we get that? Please, anyone can notify us. Oh, please, you can notify us when it is exactly our 5 minutes to end the call, please. So that is 5 years. The numbers of years is 5 years, right? You just put the 5 years, right? Now, what is the current dividend? What is the current dividend given to us in the question? What is the current dividend? 36 naira 3 kobo, right?
Yes, sir.
Is that not so?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hello? 36 naira 3. Okay, thank you. 36 naira 3 kobo. Don't forget that current dividend divided by the earliest dividend. Class, now you give me the current dividend. What is the current dividend? 36 naira 3 kobo. What is the earliest dividend? Class, earliest
30 point.
dividend. What is the earliest dividend?
30.9.
35.
You say?
30.9.
30.9.
Oh, please, if
The
is what?
dividend. The earliest dividend should be the one in 2022.
Is what? What is
It'll
the
be
earliest dividend?
2022.
Earliest
2022. Okay.
30.9.
Okay, noted.
Earliest
30.9 earliest.
dividend
Mustafa.
will be 30.9 in 2019.
Okay. Now the correct one is what? The earliest is 90.9. Earliest. Old one. Right?
30.9.
Or base. You use earliest. That's why we say earliest. That is 30.9. Please, it is what? 30 what?
Please explain, sir.
30.9. Right? 30 what? 30.9. So 30.9. That is what? The earliest. The current is what? 36.3. Right? So we quickly move to that part. 36.3. Right? So you use 36.3, 36.3, right? Divided by 30.9. 30 point what? 30.9. Class, what do you have? What do you have? What do you have? So this is 4, right? This is 4. So what do you have? I need your answer. First thing you need to do is that we did it in our last class, right? You need to you divide. When you divide, you look for the fourth root, right? You divide 36.3 divided by 3. 36.3 divided by 30.9 will give you your answer. Then figure, you do the fourth root. When you want to do your fourth root, press your what is it called? Your fourth shift. When you 4 shift the division of 36 divided by 36.3 divided by 30.9. Then when you get your answer, you minus it from what? From 1. Class, what is the figure?
4.1.
4.1, right? 4.1%, right? That is the what? That is the growth. Is that not so? 4.1%. Please, others should confirm that.
Yes,
4.1%.
4.1%.
Thank you. That is the growth rate, right? 4.1% or 0.041. Is that not so? 0.041. That is the growth rate. Class, that is the growth rate, right? So the growth rate is this. So that is the growth rate we will use to determine our cost of equity, right? That is the growth rate, class. So we need to create another, but before we create the link, let me just copy this. Let me just copy this to this side so that, okay, before we create the link, please, do we have anyone that have question before we create the link?